Hi everyone, I'm Carrie, and today I am going to share how I make t-shirt quilts. My mother and father-in-law recently gave me a whole bunch of concert and musical shirts that they've collected over the years, and they've asked me to make a king-size bed quilt for them. So I thought, since I'm going to be making it anyway, I might as well film my process and my method for how I do that. So this video, I'm thinking this is probably going to be a 3 or 4 part series here on YouTube. So the first video, which is this one, is just the introduction, prep work, tips, anything you might need to do before you begin. So I'm going to start by telling you need to wash the t-shirts. Even if you think they're clean, I recommend washing them just in a plain clothes cycle, warm water. Nothing fancy. I just use Arm & Hammer detergent. Whatever you normally wash your clothes in should be fine. Do not add any softeners, no extra chemicals, no OxyClean, nothing like that. And then when you put them in the dryer, no dryer sheets. So we don't want any kind of residue buildup on the shirts whatsoever. Just plain detergent, tumble dry low, just normal load of laundry. If you have shirts that have 3D elements on them, this is usually what I see this the most with shirts from people's childhood or maybe their children when they were growing up. When I was growing up, I remember going to school and being handed a t-shirt to decorate with like a, like the little bottles of paint that you would squeeze and little dots of paint, and they would have you decorate your t-shirt. So stuff like that I would be wary of. I understand that they are usually very sentimental and important. So if you want that in your quilt, you can absolutely put it in your quilt if that's what you really want. Just keep in mind that when you send it off to be long arm quilted, if you're not going to quilt it yourself, you may have to pay a little extra for the long armor to go around those 3D elements, just so the machine doesn't get damaged and so that the shirt doesn't get damaged either. So because at that point we're talking about custom quilting. So most t-shirts though are just screen printed, so for the most part you won't have a whole lot of 3D elements to work with. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut apart the t-shirts. So I'm going to show y'all, I'm going to have Jake film, my husband. I'm going to have him film so I can show y'all how I do this. But we're basically going to remove we're going to separate the front of the t-shirt and the back of the t-shirt. We're going to cut the sleeves off and remove the collar. So when you've cut the shirt up, you want to make sure you don't have any seams in the finished t-shirt block. That's just going to help with bulk. And I would also recommend fabric shears. You can try to use regular scissors. You will quickly find that it is a lot of extra work and effort. Fabric shears are designed to cut through fabric pretty effortlessly, so I would definitely make sure that you've got something like this. These are just Ganger shears that I got from Joann a while back, so you can still find these, but Fiskars, anything that's meant for fabric will work. So the next thing I want to talk about is interfacing. I have used 3 different kinds of interfacing. My preferred interfacing is SF101 by Pellon, and that's something you can get at Hobby Lobby or online. It's pretty readily available and it has many different uses. So I use it in my cross stitch finishing and in my quilting in general. I really like this stuff. It's very, it's like a woven lightweight interfacing, and it just does the job well. There's also something called French fuse, also known as Tricot. This stuff I find can be a little difficult to get a hold of. I've not seen it in Hobby Lobby. I think you'd have to order it online, but I have used it when I come across, if someone has given me jerseys from like a sports team, I kind of tend to want to interface that with the Tricot or the French fuse, just because there's so much extra stretch. The Tricot really seems to counteract that material a lot better than SF101. So SF101 is a little bit more budget friendly, I would say, than Tricot. If you are really tight on budget, I have also used 950F by Pellon, and that is another good alternative. It's not quite as nice as SF101, but it does the job well. I mean, it will work. I think with that one, you've got to put your iron on wool setting and make sure you have a lot of steam. So, but the SF101, that's my go-to. I know how it works, and I don't have to be gentle with it. I kind of just am more familiar and comfortable with that one. So, it's so important to interface all of your shirts. You cannot just slap t-shirt material together and expect to have a flat square quilt at the end. You will not have fun. It will become cumbersome and difficult to work with. So I promise, interfacing the shirts, even though this is the step that takes the longest, it is non-negotiable. You have to interface any kind of stretch in fabric. So do not skip the interfacing. Okay, so let's talk about ironing. You want to use a pressing cloth when you are ironing your interfacing onto the backside of your t-shirt material. I prefer to use a pressing cloth and not press from the front of the t-shirt, just because when you apply heat to a screen printed t-shirt design, or any kind of element really on the front of a t-shirt, there's a good chance it'll melt if the hot iron touches it. So I always iron from the back side when I'm fusing the interfacing onto the material. Steam will help. I do like to use steam. You can also put like a flat sheet on top of your ironing board, just to kind of save your ironing board from anything, just in case anything comes off the shirts. You won't have ruined your ironing board cover. But as long as you press from the back side on the interfacing, you should be good. And just a little steam and settle in and watch a couple of movies, because this will take a while. I have a new iron that I'm going to use today. It is a Cricut iron, and it is really big. It's right here. The sole plate on it is much bigger than a regular iron, so I'm hoping that it will take less time, because if I use this little aliso back here, the footprint on that is quite small. So it's okay if you don't have anything fancy like that. Just plan on it taking a while if you have a small footprint like a regular iron has. So once we've fused all of the t-shirts with interfacing, I am going to have my husband film me cutting them out, and I kind of rely on my square rulers for that. I would say most t-shirt designs have about a 14 to 15 inch design size. So a square ruler, this is going to help line it up. These are the Cute Cuts rulers from Lori Holt, and they're nice rulers that help you trim so you can center your design as best you can. You won't be able to get it completely centered vertically because you'll have the collar still, but you'll cut around that, and for the most part you'll get your whole design in there easily, and all of your t-shirt quilt blocks will measure the same size, so you won't need to worry about squaring anything up later. So with that said, I am going to get my husband, and we are going to show y'all how to cut out these t-shirts and get them started. And my next video, I will go over laying the quilt blocks out. I have a design wall behind this quilt behind me. Let's see if you can see that. It's on a curtain rod that I hung from the ceiling, so I'm going to move that out of the way. And I'll probably lay it out in quadrants. Just because I don't have a quilt, like a design wall big enough to hold a king size quilt. So if you don't have a design wall, just enough floor space, or even use your bed to lay out your blocks. And I'll kind of show y'all how I work each quadrant to finish at the size I need. I will probably be adding a lot of fabric and scraps just to add to the t-shirts where I need to, so that it becomes a square quilt in the end. But other than that, we'll get to fusing, and I will see y'all next time for quilt layout. Okay, so I have my first t-shirt laid out. I'm gonna try to make it as flat as I can. Some t-shirts will have seams running up the side. Most do not, but you want to try to make sure that you're cutting close to where the side would be. So I start at the bottom and I just cut right up to the armpit. And when I get here, I'm going to cut the sleeve off completely through both layers. Now, for most people, this part would just be discarded, but I like to let my customers tell me what to throw away. So some people are really sentimental, which is fine, but just keep any material that's scrap just in case you need it. So I'm going to continue cutting up to the neck. And we'll go back down and repeat. You do want to try to cut as close to that seam as you can, just in case you need that design space for your block. You don't want to come up short. Oh my God. Try come at it from this way. I don't know why suddenly I'm not able to cut as beautifully. There we go. Okay, so at this point you'll have the back side of your quilt or your quilt block and the front side. So theoretically you have two quilt blocks now because you've got two different designs. So I'm going to work with the front of the shirt for now. I'm going to lay it face down. And I'm going to take my interfacing and I'm just going to cut off a piece that's big enough to cover that area of the shirt. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure you've got enough that it will cover the whole design on the front of the shirt. Okay, so now we're going to go over to the ironing board and we're going to fuse it. So I have a pressing cloth that I've put down just to protect my surface, just in case anything comes off the shirt. It shouldn't, but I'm just going to smooth it out, make sure I don't have any wrinkles. Lay my interfacing on top. So there's a bumpy side. That's where you're gonna, that's essentially like the glue on the interfacing. You want to make sure that's face down. Otherwise you're gonna glue it to your iron. Now this is new to me and I'm trying it out today officially. It's made by Tricot. I got this off Amazon for about $100. And I like to use steam, but this this thing does not have that option on it. It's not really meant to use as an iron like this. So I'm going to make my own steam, and by that I mean I'm going to get a spray bottle full of water and I'm just going to spritz my interfacing, and then I'm going to lay that down. And if I've done this right, it should take about 4 passes with this unit at 2 minutes a piece. So each shirt is going to take about 8 minutes to do the fuse, to fuse the interfacing. Okay. So I'm going to move it up now and make sure it's still smooth. I don't want any wrinkles. And we're going to do it again. I probably won't fuse the bottom part here because that's almost just kind of a waste of time. I've got plenty of fabric to work with. right. So I'm gonna check to make sure that it fused. I didn't quite get it over here on the edge, but I think it's okay because I'm gonna cut it out. I think it looks good. So from here, I'm gonna go back to the cutting board, the cutting mat. I'm gonna lay it face up. And this is a 14.5-inch ruler and it's looking pretty close. I don't know if I want to do that or if maybe the 15.5-inch would be better. I'll probably do the 15.5. You can always make things smaller, you can't make them bigger. So if it's too big, I can always cut it down. So you don't want to cut, you want to make sure you're not getting the neck. So you don't want to cut the neck out. You don't want that in your block. So from here, I'm just going to take my rotary cutter and cut around all 4 sides of my ruler. Now when I'm looking at my design, I just want to try to make sure that it's more or less centered. So I look at the space left on either side of the design as well as the top and the bottom. Now with the neck being, the design is close to the neck and that's not much I can do about that. So I'm just going to get it as close as I can. All right. So this is now scrap. You can toss it aside with the sleeves. And now we have our first t-shirt quilt block fully interfaced. And from here we would just keep on going until we run out of t-shirts or we run out of interfacing. I don't know what I'm going to run out of first. So. All right, so I've moved my quilt aside and I have my design wall in front of me. So I'm gonna start laying my blocks out and putting them on the design wall. I'll probably run out of room ultimately, but I'm thinking as I'm assembling the quadrants of my quilt, I'm gonna put each quadrant on the wall and work like I'm making 4 separate quilts and then attach all 4 together. So next time when you see me, I will have all of my interfaced t-shirt quilt blocks put together and I will walk y'all through quilt layout and assembly, and if we need to add any scraps of fabric to make everything look square, I will go over that then. Until then, enjoy fusing and I will see you next time. Damn it. God. And Jake is still asleep, so he can't hear me being silly. Damn it! Why'd you have to get up? I'm never gonna get through this.